The last few weeks we talked about, like last week and the week before, we talked some about 144,000. But we began by talking about the fall of Babylon, where I believe we are in the book of Revelation. We see what's happening in the world today and look in the book of Revelation and in other places. In the 14th chapter is where Babylon is first mentioned, that it falls. We've read those verses several times. But in chapter 15, in chapter 14 is also where the rapture takes place. Then in chapter 15, there's 7 angels that are chosen, and they're given 7 vials which contain the wrath of God. The story's in order. In chapter 16, they pour those vials out. Now, if the rapture takes place in chapter 14, we're in heaven when the vials of the wrath of God are poured out on the earth. And I know that's ahead of us. That's in the future. But then in chapter 17 and 18, he goes into the judgment of Babylon. So Babylon is mentioned in Revelation just as much as the beast, which we consider to be the Antichrist, the false prophet. Babylon is really described in the judgment of Babylon more than any of the rest of it. And the beginning of the fall of Babylon starts before the rapture. If we're witnessing the beginning of the fall of Babylon now, which I believe we are, which is the world system, financial system, how a double handful of people, of families have gotten rich over centuries of fooling the whole world into their financial system, then the fall of that system begins before the rapture. And it's still going on after the rapture. It creates havoc on the earth. But the fall of Babylon begins before the rapture, but the beast and the false prophet are not taken out until Jesus returns again. When he comes back with the armies of heaven. That's after the rapture, that's after the marriage in chapter 19. Then in the middle part of chapter 19 is when Jesus comes back. That's Armageddon. And that's when the beast and the false prophet are thrown into hell. And the devil's chained up. Now I'm saying all that to say this. There's an awful lot going on the earth all during that time. In our time, before the rapture, if and I say if we're witnessing the beginning of the fall of Babylon now, then there's going to be a time period between now and the rapture, even in chapter 14. Is it months? Is it years? I don't know. But it's just a few verses in chapter 14. Now there's going to be revival. I believe we're beginning to see that. We're beginning to see the fall of Babylon. That's what the 3 angels are talking about. But they also warn not to take the mark of the beast. That 3rd angel says don't take the mark of the beast. the beast is still going to be here, which is government. Got 10 heads, or 7 heads, 10 crowns, something like that. It's the same, goes right along with the statue in Daniel, that Daniel interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dream. 10 toes, 10 kings on earth at the same time, in the last days. That's what we're seeing now. 10 nations coming together and giving their authority to the beast. So there'll be 10 nations. And I don't know that you can pick out the nations by name. We probably can towards the end of it, but it'll be 10 of them that are given power just for a short period of time. And I believe that's going to be between now and the rapture. And they'll control the world. When the financial system comes down, it's got to be replaced with something else. And I believe that that's going to be something that looks real good. I do. How else is the beast going to fool people into signing up? Unless he tips you with something that looks real good.
That's right.
Remember, he's still here. The beast, the false prophet. The false prophet. But again, this Brother Dan's thinking. It's been talked about for years now, and now it's coming together where the Roman Catholics, the Muslims, the other religions come together. We talked about this back when we was talking about the feast. There's 4 major religions on the face of the earth. And at the last time, they're all going to be put together. Try to. It's going to be like the 10 toes on the statue. Part iron, part clay. You don't mix iron and clay, they won't mix. All water, all these religious systems, they're not going to mix. Be like the golden statue that Nebuchadnezzar built. The little Hebrew guys wouldn't bow down. Well, if you don't bow down to this new religion, you're going to be an outcast. And what does Jesus say that's going to offend so many people? I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That's going to offend everybody.
Yeah.
Because they're all about coming together. Now that sounds real good, let's all get together. Let's get along. Let's all make a contract and we'll all get along and everything will be cool. And that sounds fine. Until Jesus is the only way. That all sounds pretty good till you get to that. So there's still going to be persecution for Christians. Even after, I believe, a new financial system comes, everybody's doing good. It looks rough right now, but it could change overnight. And when it does, don't be fooled. The beast is still alive.
That's right.
He's still here. And he's not going to go anywhere until Jesus comes back. So, I don't know if I've explained that okay, pretty good, not so good, if I confused everybody. what do y'all think about it? What's going on right now?
I think people are realizing that they made the wrong choice in the government. And that's the way the Antichrist is going to come in, because he's going to promise you all this stuff, and people think, wow, man, I get all this stuff from this Antichrist. And then, just like that, he's going to turn on them. And the Jews are going to accept him because they think he's really the Messiah, so he turns on them. And then they'll realize that they made the wrong choice and repent. I believe there's going to be, Jewish people that finally realize that Jesus is the Messiah, but it's all well and good until it's not.
Well, even the Bible says here, the first part of when the Antichrist is in control, he'll say peace. Everything's going to be peaceful. Everything's going to be great. Be rosy. Remember the angel said, don't sign up. Don't sign up with him. About halfway through, he'll turn. What Jesus say, it's going to be like the prophet Daniel said, when the abomination of desolation is set up in the holy place. That's it.
I imagine there'll be some tricking into signing up. You really have to know what you're looking for to not sign up.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's going to trick anybody. I believe that they are going to choose of their own choosing to take the mark or not.
Yeah.
Because if we have to be tricked into it, we really haven't accepted it.
Not really awake.
Hadn't made the choice. Yeah.
Right.
Not really awake. Paying attention.
Yeah.
So what happens if we're at the beginning of this end time stuff, if we're at the end time? What does Jesus say about it? This particular time we're living in. What did he say about it? We don't know the exact time frame, but we do know what Jesus said. And if we take what he said literally, we will be given assignments and specific things to do. Each one of them. What did he say in the 25th chapter of Matthew? He gave a parable about talents. The first guy was given 5 talents, second guy was given 2 or 3 talents, and the last one 1. Well, each one of them handled his money different. Talents is money. But talents can be assignments. What is Jesus giving you to do? Have you taken it and done what you're supposed to do with it and gained more? Made headway? Or have you just hid it in the trunk and pull it out and look at it every now and then and then stick it back under and not do nothing with it? Not do what Jesus wants you to do with that talent. He's given, that was a parable that went right along with what Jesus said. Every one of us is given talents. It's like money. What are you going to do with it? You going to go out and trade it and make more money? Or are you going to just hide it, dig a hole, bury it somewhere? Well, Jesus called the one that buried it. He still had his talent. But he called him a wicked servant. He didn't go use it and make more. We've got the message of the gospel. What are we going to do with it? That's what are we going to do? In this particular church, each one of us have a different function. Got a different job, if you want to call it like that. Who we working for? We're not working for Brother John, we're working for Jesus. He's working for Jesus. He's doing what the Lord's told him to do. Been doing it for over 20 years or longer. Just that long here. Been faithful at it, hadn't you, brother? Been here all that time. Been faithful with it. It wouldn't have grown. The ministry, the talents, brother, I'm just going to use him for an example. His talents wouldn't have been multiplied. You see the building sitting here. It just didn't fall out of the air. It took people giving money into something they believed in. What they believed in. They believed in what that man said right there was doing. And they believed in Jesus. If he hadn't been doing what he was supposed to be doing, this building wouldn't be set. That's just one example. There's no telling how many people have come to know the Lord, trying to live right, doing right. They come to church trying to do right because of what he's preached out of that pulpit for over 20 years. And Lord, help us to keep going.
Amen.
Don't hide that. Don't stop. Keep going. You see what I'm saying? That's what Jesus is telling us to do between now and when he comes back. What's going to happen if we do that? Let's just say we keep doing it. I believe we're doing it. What's going to happen if we do that? Well, what Jesus say? He don't just give us orders to do something and whip us if we don't. In Matthew 24, you can jot these scriptures down or turn there if you want to, whatever. Matthew 24, starting in verse 44. He said, "Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh." This is before the rapture. That's the point. What he's saying here is before the rapture. We're before the rapture. He's talking to us. "Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season." So what are we supposed to be doing? He's calling us, if we've been given an assignment, then we're a ruler in his household. This is his house. And we're supposed to be giving them meat in due season. Now let's take me for an example. I've used Brother Don. I could keep using him. What's he done for over 20 years? Give us meat in due season. What are we doing when we come to church? We're eating a spiritual meal. Go ahead.
Have you noticed that whenever you're doing what the Lord wants you to do, you always seem to have peace, and you're not conflicted or anything. You have peace, and when you're not doing what the Lord wants you to do, man, nothing goes right.
Chaos.
It's chaos.
It's
like a
fine
swamp.
there.
Sometimes when you're doing what you're supposed to do, there's chaos.
Yeah.
But you get through it.
But yeah, and then you get peace.
You know, you're hoping.
So what's Jesus saying to do? Give them meat in due season. What am I doing up here? I'm trying to serve a meal, a spiritual meal that you eat and take it and grow. You can tell I've been eating pretty regular. I've grown a lot. Just in the last few months. I had to suck it in and get these britches back. And don't get in front of me if their buttons start popping. There'd be like 22 bullets going on. But what did Jesus say? Give meat in due season. Blessed is that servant. Remember, we're still servants. We're not supposed to say, man, I've seen some folks, I hate to talk about other folks, but I'm just going to be general. And you'll hear them say, out at pulpit, I've done this, and I've done that, and this is my church. I have never heard Brother Don say anything like that. And that's one reason I'm still going. We're all in this together. Whenever we get to thinking we something, it's our deal, then we're off track.
Yep.
And it's going to stop working. It's not going to work.
Well, Dan, I've heard people say, they meant no harm whatsoever, but they said, it's Brother Dunn's church. They've been up to Brother Dunn's church, and that, they don't mean that way, but it's not Brother Dunn. This church is the Lord. We're the bride.
We're still servants. Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he comes, shall find him doing it. If Jesus comes today and he finds us here doing what he's told us to do, we're going to be blessed. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. So what we do now determines what Jesus shall help us to. Did you catch what he said? This is Jesus talking. Verily I say unto you, he just got through saying, blessed is the servant whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing, giving them meat in due season, doing what the Lord wants you to do. How's he blessed? Verily I say unto you that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. When Jesus comes back, think about this. Just think about it. When Jesus comes back, eventually he's going to set up his kingdom on the earth for 1,000 years. 1,000 years is a long time. And we're going to be changed or resurrected and part of the bride of Christ, and we're going to be alive for 1,000 years. Is Jesus going to come to, let's just say, I'm just using this for an example. Is he going to come to Shelby County and take care of the roads? Is Jesus going to have court once a month up there in the courthouse? We're still going to have disputes between one another. You realize that we might not agree on everything. My fence is right here, and you say it's supposed to be over here. Somebody's got to settle that. They had judges in Israel hundreds of years ago to settle just stuff like that. And it was settled. We go on about our business. Who's going to take care of Shelbyville water supply? We're going to be drinking water in that 1,000 years. Who's going to work on the tractors? We're going to turn our tanks into John Deere tractors and be growing food instead of shooting rockets at one another. But who's going to keep them? What I'm saying is, we're each going to be given assignments in 1,000 years. What did Jesus say? He shall make him ruler over all his goods. Jesus owns everything. And he's the head of the government. There's going to be people under him. I know this might be kind of boring stuff. Matter of fact, you know, oh, brother Dan, we just all going to be in heaven. Everything's going to be cool. We're going to go down to the river and eat fruit once a month. All that kind of stuff. What about the earth? If Jesus has got his kingdom set up on the earth, what's going to happen to it? That earth's still turning. It's still rolling around the sun for 1,000 years before everything's changed.
That's when the beast is gonna lay down
The lion.
The wild beast.
Lion will lay down with the lamb.
And
Yeah.
the lamb will lay down,
Mm-hmm.
that's dear Lord. I
I
like
think
to
so.
study about the name, you know, it amazes me.
Yeah.
That's gonna be.
But
That's
there's,
what it was like probably in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
You know, it was gonna hopefully go back to that.
he talks about that in Revelation too. When he's talking to the churches, let me just read through. Is that clock right? Yeah. Okay. When he's talking to the churches, he gives each one of them, he tells them what he likes about them, he tells them what he don't like about them, but at the end of every church, he tells them what's going to happen if they'll hang in there, if they'll keep going. In Revelation chapter 2, verse 7, he's talking to the church at Ephesus. He says, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him that overcometh. Now this is promises to the ones that overcome. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God. That's a tree with fruit on it. We're still going to have fruit to eat. Going to have good food to eat. That's one of the promises Jesus has made. In chapter 2, verse 10, he's talking to the church at Smyrna. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. He tells you you're going to suffer. What's going to happen? In our time, we're going to suffer for the things we believe. The Christians are going to have to pay a price to hang in there. But if we suffer now, look what we get later.
Amen.
Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried. You shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I'll give thee a crown of life. Now that's been going on for a long time. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. Now he defines what the second death is later on in Revelations, because at the end of the 1,000-year reign there'll be a second resurrection. All the dead will be raised. And the books are opened and they're all judged. But if we're in the first resurrection, the second death won't have an effect on it. We've already been judged. We went up with the first one. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. I believe we'll be there and we'll witness that. There's going to be a lot of folks judged at that second death, or second resurrection. And I don't think all of them is going to be thrown in hell. I mean, it doesn't say they will. A lot of them will. Why No, they wait till the second resurrection. I hadn't got that one figured out. Well, what about people that were saved? They believe in Jesus for just a short time, and then they're gone. And they don't have a chance to live. They don't have a chance to. I'm just saying. There's all of them. It's not going to be. Each one's going to be judged on his own merits. Where was it? Let's see. Revelation chapter 2, verse 17. The church at Pergamum. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith to the churches. To him that overcomes will I give to eat of the hidden manna. I will give him a white stone, and in that stone a new name written, which no man knoweth saving he that receiveth. We'll each get a white stone with a new name in it. And I don't know what the name will be, but it'll be a name that describes me. The way Jesus describes me. Remember when he met Peter, Simon? Jesus changed his name right then. His name was Simon. But Jesus changed his name. Jesus will have a lot of names written on him too. Revelation chapter 2, verse 25. Thyatira church. But that which ye have already hold fast until I come. He that overcometh and keepeth the works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father. Even as I received of my Father. Jesus rules the nations with a rod of iron. But here he's saying to him that overcometh, you're going to help me rule those nations. And I'm going to let you use my rod of iron. And if they won't go along with it, you beat them to pieces with it. Isn't that what he said? So we're going to be given assignments, and all of us are not going to be given the same assignment. It looks to me like if you want to say some's got more authority than others, that's a lot of authority right there. And he say, Carl, I want you to go down to Brazil. Them boys down there is not doing what I told them to do. You go down there and line them out. Now, if Jesus tells you to do that, are you going to do it? Yeah. And you'll have all his commitments.
Right.
You'll say, Chris, you Jonathan, come on. That may sound like Brother Dan lost his marbles. But I'm reading it to you right out of the book. It's written in red. This is what's going to happen. Jesus is going to establish governments, and he's going to put people in places of authority. Some of them's going to be in the church, some of them's going to be in the government, some of them's going to be in the schools, some of them's going to run the water tank. Whatever he tells us to do. That's why a lot of times I say, I don't know what Jesus wants me to do. I'm just going to wait till he tells me, and then I'm going to go do what he says do. Because he knows what I can do best. He knows what you can do best. In, let's see, Sardis, Revelation chapter 3, verse 4. Thou hast a few names even in Sardis which have not defiled their garments, and they shall walk with me in white, for they are worthy. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment. And I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. He that hath the ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. It sounds like these folks are going to be in the church somewhere. They hadn't defiled their garments. They'd walk with him everywhere he wanted them to go. Now, I'm not saying that the other people have. I'm just saying some of us are going to be given other different things to do than others. In Philadelphia, chapter 3, verse 11, behold, I come quickly, hold that fast which ye have, that no man take your crown. He that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and I will write upon him a new name. These folks won't never leave out of the temple. They'll be in the temple from then on. That's not going to be for everybody. In Laodicea, chapter 3, verse 20, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come to him and sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame him, and sat down with my Father in his throne. He that hath an ear, hear what the Spirit says to the churches. That's a lot to take in. But I believe we're bumping right up against the time that some of us are going to start having. Some of it already has. Jesus, when he comes back to rule for 1,000 years, he talks about that in Matthew chapter 25. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. That's when Jesus comes back to rule. That's not the rapture. That's after that. Before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. There's going to be good nations. There's going to be bad nations. I believe right now he's taking this nation, the United States, through the fire because he had to give up on us. And I think he's going to take out a whole lot of rotten stuff before he's through. And it might hurt for a while. But I don't think he's given up. Has judgment come to the United States? I think so. But there's good people still here. There's praying folks still here. We're doing what Jesus said to do. Listen to the rest of it. Before him shall be gathered all nations. He shall separate them, sheep from the goats. He shall set the sheep on the right, the goats on the left. Then shall the king say to them on the right hand, come, be blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the earth. For I was hungry, you gave me meat. I was thirsty. Remember, he's talking to the nations. He's separating the nations. The nations that have helped the hungry, gave them food, helped them dig wells. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. There's nations in Africa that didn't even have water fit to drink.
That's right.
And we sent people over there to show them how to dig wells. Sent tractors on boats over there to show them how to grow the food. Teach them how to grow their own food, just water to drink. They're drinking out of mud holes. Brother Amos, you've been over there, am I telling the truth?
Absolutely.
And it's not just, it's all over the world, really. Nations that have been oppressed, their leaders are filthy rich, and the people drinking out of mud holes. That's about as bad as you can get. I was a stranger and you took me in. Have you ever met somebody you don't know them from Adam, but you help them somehow? Sister, I bet your husband stopped on the side of the road, no telling how many times.
Oh, he
they-
always picks up people. I said, you better, that's going to get you in trouble one day. He said, I don't like to see people walking.
You know there's been a record kept of that?
Yeah.
That when the books are open, and Brother Lopez is standing there, and he's wondering what's fixing to happen, they gonna read off stuff like that. Stuff we done forgot about. You remember when you helped that crazy looking, might have been a crackhead, but you stopped him, helped him change the flat?
Well, one day, when he was working at Buffalo, Texas, he seen this old man. He said, like he was a veteran or something, just standing on the side of the road. It was kind of cold. He said, I decided to pick him up. He said, I picked him up. He said, just drop me off at the next station. Well, so I dropped him off, and then he was gone. He don't know where he went to.
Angel unaware.
There you go.
Yep, there's angels on the
My
way.
daddy never passed a car on the side of the road.
But
Or an
that's what
accident.
Jesus is gonna be
Go
doing.
there and pray for
That's kind of the timeline and what we're gonna be doing. And what Jesus said about it. That's what Jesus said about it. Heaven's not gonna be just floating around on clouds, playing our harps. And we're gonna be in the temple, we're gonna be worshiping God. Sure will.
I hope I can play a harp.
But we're gonna be doing other things too.